Did Ben Solo hashtag deserve better? As you all may know, I have a pretty complicated relationship with Star Wars. Back in the first season of my show, when everything was animated, I would talk about Clone Wars and how straight up bad the first season and the pilot movie were for that, and how I felt like Star Wars wasn't really my thing anymore. That it had gone in a different direction and that I just wasn't going that way. It took years for me to actually give Clone Wars another shot, and yeah, it did improve. Like, a ton. But the next time I would address Star Wars on the channel would be when Raina and I had our first reaction to The Force Awakens. A movie that I was pretty good with at the time, and actually, as time has gone on, I've grown to like even more. It's a really well made movie with some really great performances. Then, of course, everyone knows where I fell on The Last Jedi debate. It's still the best Battle of Camlin movie that anyone has made. King Arthur movies take note. I really loved The Last Jedi, and I was very curious to see where Rise of Skywalker would take us. And I'd be lying if I said I was especially great with the ending, but I'm also not hating it. So, Rise of Skywalker is fine. It's not great. It's not particularly bad. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's about as fine as a Star Wars movie can be. There's a lot of things in it that are really stupid, but I've kind of come to expect a lot of things being stupid in Star Wars movies. Hell, Return of the Jedi, the entire first third of it is pretty pointless to the overall plot. Yeah, I guess it's just the level of stupid that you can put up with. For the most part, I was okay with it, but then there was Kylo Ren, our Mordred, Ben Solo. I don't know how I feel about how Ben was handled. I mean, the acting wasn't the problem. Adam Driver was phenomenal a third time in a row. He's never been the problem with the character, though. I'm really wish that we got more time for this redemption arc to sink in. And for the record, I didn't think they should even give him a redemption arc at this point. I mean, he kinda got the choice to go be good, and his response was, yeah, that sounds fine, but on the other hand, we could kill my uncle and my mom. So I'm a little put off by him getting a redemption arc. It's just seemed a little, well, the audience is expecting it, so we have to do it. In fact, if I had one problem with Rise of Skywalker, it was that there was a lot of, well, it's what the audience would be happiest with, so we better do that. It was not a challenging movie. I'm also not super fond of the trope where a man can only be redeemed through the shedding of his own blood, usually his own death. In fact, I really enjoyed the fact that Last Jedi took that trope to task and had Rose call out Finn for his attempted suicide, which, by the way, I don't know where people are getting from. Go back and watch the movie. Everything about the scene was telegraphing that anything Finn would have done would not have worked. He would have killed himself for no reason. And the idea that, oh yes, but through his blood sacrifice, then he's redeemed. That's terrible. And I don't like that trope. But a lot of people felt a lot more strongly about Ben Solo's death than I did. In a very different direction. So, the hashtag on Twitter, Bring Back Ben Solo, has just been, it was crazy for a little bit this last week. And I'm not entirely sure what brought it on. I get it. A lot of people were very invested in this character. A lot more people were also really invested not only in the idea of him getting a redemption arc, but also him having a romantic relationship with Rey. And yeah, that kiss was definitely among the things that did not work for me. We're dating now. Did you know that? That's why I physically and mentally abused you and literally all of your friends. So, so I didn't quite buy that aspect, but sure enough, there are a lot of people just demanding that we get more Ben Solo or bring him back or something. And I guess, while I don't necessarily agree with the decisions that were made, I also don't necessarily think we need to bring him back either. Lots of characters, yeah, have gotten redemption arcs and didn't really get a chance to live after redeeming themselves. One of the things Ben faces is that he died the same way his grandfather did. Last minute sacrifice in the name of the greater good. And in a way, yeah, I get it why people are upset, and I'm opposed to that plot point, but I also don't like last minute stories negating things from the next chapter. And yeah, that really ties into Rise of Skywalker's other big problem. In its push to be everything that fans expected it to be, it also decided to sweep some of the more challenging ideas from Last Jedi under the rug. And I think it did that to its own detriment. The idea that Ben, Kylo, was the son of heroes and the nephew of the great hero, like, that is a great hero origin in most classical mythology. Just like being an orphan whose parents sold them for drinking money is a common origin for a villain. Actually, some of you might be noticing that's literally Jonathan Joestar and Dio Brando's origins. So I like that script got flipped. I liked the idea that the Force could just be something with anybody. And instead, Rey ended up being a Palpatine, and I'm not super good with that. I'm still good that you had that element of she had a villain's origin, but I don't know. That biological predeterminism, I'm super not keen on that. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I'm conflicted about almost everything about this movie. Yeah, I definitely had fun during parts of it, and heck, I was one of the only people in the theater laughing at some of the funny parts. But at the same time, I really wish this movie would have done something bolder. And no, I'm opposed to the idea of having Ben come back from the dead. In fact, the only time we've had a character come back from the dead and it wasn't completely eye rolly was with a certain guy named Maul. Ironically, in the later seasons of a show that I was way too willing to write off. But I get it. I definitely get it. Fans of Kylo who wanted to see more of Ben, the Ben persona, it's really tantalizing. The bits of Adam Driver playing heroic Ben are really pretty cool. His Han Solo esque mannerisms are great, and his just general like being more of a goofball was welcome. I wish we could have gotten a proper redemption arc, because if they were going to do that, it had to have been earlier in the movie. It wouldn't have just been, oh, Ben's nice now and he's gonna do the one girl a favor. It would have also been Ben owns up to his other mistakes and the other people he hurt and the galaxy he hurt. I think Ben's redemption would feel more complete if it wasn't just his ghost parents and Rey that accepted him, but rather like Finn, who he was the violent commander of for presumably years, or Poe, who we know he tortured in the short time that he knew him, or even just acknowledging the awful stuff he did to Rey. His last lines to her before she leaves the Star Destroyer in episode 8 aren't encouraging. You're nothing, but not to me. That's the way an abuser talks. That's not how you talk to someone you love. So, yeah, I understand people. It was really cool seeing a heroic Ben Solo, but I don't want to just keep going back and hurting these movies. I don't want every sequel to Star Wars to be let's dig up the stuff and just undo it because some people didn't like it. I really don't feel that Last Jedi did that because I know there's going to be some people. So I know there's going to be some people saying like, "Isn't that what Last Jedi did?" I don't think so. Last Jedi just kind of looked at the stuff we already had and spun it in a different direction. Like, I'm sorry, but like, go back to the prequels and with how obsessed with bureaucracy the Jedi are, how heroic do they look? Especially with how bad they fail by the end of it. Go look at Luke Skywalker, who, I mean, realistically, where Luke Skywalker just ghosted everyone he loved and disappeared to some planet without any correspondence. That's not the kind of thing you do when you're ready to face your problems. Like, to me, that was just continuing from that point, and I really don't like the idea that if we get an episode 10 for some reason, that we would go back and just be like, oh, also these things don't count. I think a lot of people don't understand that movies are very much planned on the fly. They usually have some type of roadmap, but it's pretty loose. Even the original Star Wars trilogy wasn't tightly planned. That's really obvious, especially when you look at how the Han, Luke, Leia love triangle was absolutely a thing in the first two movies. Or the fact that there's video of George Lucas coming into the people designing assets for episode 3 to announce to them that he finally finished the script. It's weird. These things are kind of always in flux, but if we keep going back to revise Star Wars after the story is done, for even if it's for better or worse, I feel like doing that, we just end up doing the same thing George Lucas did with the special editions. Or what this movie did that didn't work. If anything, it's kind of a relief that episode 9 is the end of the trilogy. Because now I can just take it all together, the good and the bad, and kind of enjoy it for what it is. Which I think is the best way to approach any part of Star Wars. As always, if you like what I'm doing, hit like, hit the little bell to know when I post new videos, subscribe maybe, help me out on Patreon, throw some credits my way. And may the Force be with you.